orchestra with harpsichord accompaniment. By the time we got to Mozart in
Good evening to our person in the audience and to any of those tuning in to listen to us for the Moscow Board of Adjustments meeting for May 19th, which is actually our first meeting in 2015. So with that, we have some minutes to approve for December 17th, 2014. Anybody like to make comments on those minutes?
Well, I would, but I wasn't here, so.
It's going to be you and I, Joe.
That's what I thought.
Yep. So I had a chance to review the minutes and found that they were succinct and covered the business as we conducted it, and so I would move acceptance of those minutes as presented.
I will second those because I too reviewed them and was there, and I found no errors. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2 ayes.
Abstain.
That's 2 ayes, 3 abstentions, and it is approved. All right.
Okay, good evening, board members. Before you tonight is a conditional use permit application for 334 North Jackson Street. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to bring an existing single-family dwelling into conformance with the zoning code by proposing to continue the residential use, which is on the ground floor and not located behind a commercial use within the motor business zone. The existing residence was constructed in 1943 prior to adoption of the current code. And the structure currently meets the minimum required front setback of 10 feet for parcels within the motor business zone, and there are no other required setbacks applicable to the subject property. The property is located here, outlined in red, with frontage on North Jackson Street and with West D Street just to the north. Like I mentioned, it's in the motor business zone, and this zone allows residential uses, including residential rental unit, located on the ground floor, which are not located behind commercial uses as a conditionally permitted use. Parcels with residential uses in the motor business zone are required to have a minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 50 feet. The subject property meets the minimum lot area with 5,000 square feet and has a lot width of 40 feet, which is 10 feet shy of the required minimum lot width. Therefore, we apply the non-conforming lots of record provision. The non-conforming lots of record provision is found within the Zoning Code, Chapter 4, Section 1-8B, and it reads as follows. In any zoning district in which single-family dwellings are permitted, where any single lot of record existing as of the effective date of adoption of this code has been previously approved by the city, a single-family dwelling and customary accessory buildings may be erected on such lot. This provision shall apply even if such lot otherwise fails to meet the requirements for area or width, or both, which are generally applicable in the district. Such lot shall conform to yard dimensions and requirements other than those applying to lot area or width for the zoning district in which such lot is located. So just to summarize, this property within this zone, single-family dwellings are permitted via conditional use permit. The lot was existing prior to the adoption of this code and was previously approved by the city, and it fails to meet the lot width, but it meets all other dimensional and requirements for the motor business zone. You can see that all surrounding properties in the vicinity are also zoned motor business. Surrounding uses include 2 single-family dwellings to the east, a former single-family dwelling structure that's now being used as professional office space to the north, and a large commercial use and structure to the south. And across Jackson Street, we have a former agricultural site, and then we have the Moscow Recycling Center nearby to the southwest, and the Rosar Supermarket to the north.
Does
Becky, those single-family dwellings that are to the east, are they?
I beg your pardon, I can't hear you.
I guess I should. The two homes to the east there, are they just non-conforming, or do they have CUPs?
No, they're currently just non-conforming uses. Yep. So as I mentioned, the subject property is 5,000 square feet in size. It's just south of West D Street with 40 feet of frontage on North Jackson. And again, the structure was built in 1943 and has historically been used as a residence. And then I already mentioned the surrounding properties. The property has rear vehicle access with a large amount of parking accessible via a 16-foot wide alley, which is accessed primarily from D Street. There's no curb cut existing on the property from Jackson Street. And Jackson Street is an approximately 43-foot wide collector street with curb gutter and sidewalks on both sides, as well as some on-street parking that's located directly in front of the subject property on the east side of Jackson Street. So the staff's recommendation, based on the relevant criteria and standards for approval of a conditional use permit, is to approve the application for a conditional use permit to allow residential use on the ground floor and not located behind a commercial use for an existing single-family dwelling at 334 North Jackson Street with no conditions suggested.
Becky, I got a question for you. You may not know the answer, but I feel I need to ask it. A long time ago, probably before you were born, there used to be in the zoning code, if there was a zone and there was a structure of property in it that had a lesser intensive use than the zone, that it was just automatically allowed as a use of right. And I don't know when or why that changed, but I was wondering why this particular dwelling isn't just grandfathered in without having to go through the conditional use permit process.
So it is, we don't say grandfathered, but it is non-conforming, a legal non-conforming use. So it would be, it's allowed to exist as it is. The issue is that the current owner would like to sell the property and list it as a residential use that can continue to be used. And so for that reason, to sell the property, you'd be selling a non-conforming use, which banks don't typically like to finance. And so getting the conditional use permit makes it conforming with the code. And
But even if it's conforming now, and the conditional use stays with the property and not with the owner, I'm just a little confused why we need to go through this process tonight.
I believe it just has to do with the transfer of ownership. And banks don't like to finance a structure if it was to burn down and not be able to be rebuilt as it exists
so
today.
we're basically doing it for the banks.
Well, and for future owners, yeah.
Okay.
If the home were damaged more than, is it ours 50%?
70%.
70%, then it couldn't be rebuilt. Or if, typically with non-conforming uses, if the use ceases for a period of time. So, for example, if they moved out and couldn't sell it, that would be a ceasing of the residential use, and then they would lose the right after a period of time as well. So,
But if they obtain a CUP, then it can burn down, it could be rebuilt, because that CUP will still remain. So.
Okay. Thanks, Beck.
I have a question also. In the exception that you listed that this particular property is coming in on, it clearly says that a non-conforming use for residential purposes could be, I believe the term is may be permitted, correct? It's not a must be or shall be or anything like that, right? So it gives this board the opportunity to exercise some discretion based upon the area of the zone, the wishes of any citizens, the wishes of the applicant, and all of that, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
well, hold on, to clarify.
Well, actually, yeah, if I may. A single-family dwelling would be allowed without the process of the conditional use permit.
Right, but with the two, in terms of either the dimensions of the lot or, what was the other?
It's just
setback, was it?
It has to meet all setbacks, and
Right,
the only thing
and-
it cannot meet is lot width or lot area.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay.
So if this was in a residential zone, which allowed single-family dwellings permitted by right, but it didn't meet the required lot width, it could be permitted to have a single-family dwelling.
Certainly.
The reason this
I
one,
understand.
okay,
Yeah.
you got it.
Actually, the point that I was trying to stress was may, not shall.
Yeah, I don't think that means what you think it means. It means that the person can build the house if they want
I
to.
believe it does. Thanks.
Pretty sure it doesn't.
I have a question just in terms of the use of single-family dwelling multiple times, but it also, there was reference that it could be or rented out or used as a rental, which would imply more than a single-family dwelling. Can you clarify that for me? If someone were to buy this and rent out the rooms, would that become a non-conforming use that new owner could not?
No,
Use that
so
building
the structure is a single-family dwelling. If the dwelling is designed such that one family can occupy it and has full housekeeping facilities, we don't really regulate if people rent out a home, as long as it's still being used by what meets the definition of a family.
Okay, so someone buying it can pretty much do what they want with it.
They may rent it out, certainly, or the owner
I just
could
want to
live
make sure
there.
that was allowable.
But they have to, the number of people living there has to meet the definition of a family.
Okay. Any other questions for City? Thank you very much. Well, with that presentation, I open this up for public hearing to presumably the applicant. If you'd like to come up to the microphone and state your name for the record and address, and tell us whatever you'd like to tell us.
My name is Bill Stanke. I'm a partner in Reject Investments, who's the owner of the property. We were advised by Joe McGurkin at Moscow Realty that the property would be more saleable if we went through this process. As he explained it to me, it would facilitate financing so that if a person chose to buy the property as a residence, the bank would be agreeable to financing the project. Currently, it's a rental property. It's managed by Palouse Properties. We have, I believe, 2 graduate students that are living there now. They're moving out, I believe, May 29th. So I don't know that I really have anything that I can add to the material we've submitted to you in writing. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
Any questions from board members?
No, it looks very like a book. Why would we want to change the situation? It's a good deal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other members in the audience, I'm going to close the public hearing and open this up for the board to discuss.
Joe, I think this is one of the cases that really makes sense to approve this, not having any negative comments from any of the neighbors. I think it was built as a single-family residence. It's continued to use as a single-family residence, and I see no reason in the world why not to grant this conditional use permit and with no conditions. So, therefore, I would move that we grant the conditional use permit.
I'll second that.
We have a motion. We have a second.
May I ask Becky a question before we?
By all means.
A while ago, there was some conversation, actually it was about the building next door or 2 down, that anyway, the city was considering rezoning this to central business or expanding the central business district to the north. Mm-hmm. Is that happening? The reason I ask is if that does happen, then even with the CUP, this could become a non-conforming use again. right?
Yeah, so that was being explored. It's not any longer, they decided instead to make a code amendment, and I believe it had more to do with, there's a lot of buildings that are in the central business district, there's no setback, and most of the buildings then are not setback, and further north, they were a little more setback. So I believe what we did is we made an amendment for commercial uses to have an alternate front yard setback, is what we did.
Okay.
And so, no, it's no longer being explored to expand the CB zone.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
Any other questions before we vote? Start at this end.
Nothing from me.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. That's 5 ayes. That's a unanimous, and it passes.
So, Joe, if you'll accept the motion to adopt the relevant criterion standards as provided by staff.
I was hoping someone would state
Then
that.
I will make that motion.
And I'll
Do I have a
second that
second?
one. I'll second that one.
We have multiple seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is a unanimous as well. So that will conclude that portion of our meeting. And now we have election of officers on our docket. Thoughts?
I've got a thought, Joe.
Okay.
I think you are doing such a wonderful job that I would really like to nominate you to continue as chair.
I would
Second.
like to second that.
Yeah, you hadn't screwed up anything all
I haven't had a chance. Well, okay. If you guys are comfortable with me doing this, I would gladly continue doing it.
Well, this guy agrees.
Is there another position we have to, what?
Yeah, do we have to have a second?
a vice chair.
And
yeah.
who is that currently? Is that Mark? Mark Monson?
Ann says yes.
Yeah, but,
I'd like to, I have a nomination for vice chair, Evan Holmes.
I would second that.
and I would agree mostly because I don't think Mark M. will feel unobliged or offended, and his work has kept him from missing some of these meetings, and you actually never miss meetings. so it's nice that
he never works.
Well, I'm just saying he doesn't. Not in the evenings. He's available in the evenings. So having a second person here that we know is usually available would be a benefit.
Yeah, that's fine by me. I'm just checking to see if I wasn't elected as the vice last year.
I think you were, actually.
I think I actually
maybe
am.
you are?
And-
Yeah, I think I
And
might be.
I'd just like to continue that.
I was checking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what that might be?
Yeah.
We haven't had a great deal of them, and I honestly haven't missed any, and so I don't know who was supposed to take my place.
Mark did one meeting.
Did he?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
But I kind of
neither
recall
you or
that
I
you-
were here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So he was the default. So either way, I
Well, the nomination is out there, so if somebody else wants to nominate Mark Monson, fine.
Well, we'd have to vote on the one that's already there first. So you can call it to a vote, and we can go home.
so we
Yeah, I am currently the vice chair.
there we go.
But
We
the
think you
motion,
should-
as Jerry says, is that Monson will be the vice chair, which is...
No, the motion was for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you...
No, the motion was for
Okay,
you.
okay, that's
The motion
fine. No,
should be
that's
that.
fine. We will continue. I served in such a stalwart fashion that
Now-
everyone forgot.
Do we motion and second each position, or do we motion and second that the two remain where we are?
I think you
I'm not sure what the motion was. We had nominations.
So we had a motion for you,
Okay.
right, that then should have been voted on. Then we had a
Okay.
second motion, which
Now we're
technically
voting.
was out of order. So-
Okay.
You're it.
It was unanimous, is that?
And this we just, it was by
That was it.
acclamation, so there was,
Okay.
You're it.
Okay. So we have a nomination for Evan as vice chair. Do I have a second?
I seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous as well.
move to adjourn. That's the
right.
last thing, right?
It is.
Oh, no,
Do we have any other upcoming items?
I
Wait.
have a
We actually
question.
kind of do. I'm going to pass this around. Everyone needs to verify we've got correct contact information before you leave.
And you do want us to send you that? Did you? Okay.
Here, extras here.
Good. Bring a pen.
We just...
So, Becky had a question.
Got one.
About 3.5 years ago, we approved a CUP on Taylor Avenue for a
Steelhouse?
steelhouse, right? And then they never did it, and now they're proposing something different. I mean, they're still, right. So is that CUP still
It's
valid?
not. It's expired, and I just met with some ladies from him last week, and they'll be submitting it when
Okay.
they're ready. They're still fundraising, and the article in the paper was a little misleading, a little optimistic.
All right, thank you. I just was wondering how that would work.
Okay, if there are no other items now,
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion.
Second?
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion is unanimous.
Oh, yes.
I saw a nod.
Oh, yeah.
Could you guys have a pen?
All
I
right,
borrowed?
so that ends our meeting this evening.
I wish they were all that easy.